Sairam to all listeners. I thank Radio Sai, I thank Swami first of all, and I thank Radio Sai and all my brothers here who given me a chance to put forward my thoughts on this very special occasion for me. Every occasion with Swami, every life, every moment with Swami is special. But then there are some occasions in life where you look back in life and you think how he's really been your proverbial friend, philosopher, and guide all along. I've been very fortunate to work in this institute where long back, some memories that actually come to me is long back, way back in 2000 when we had been to Swami and we were given an interview as part of a Mumbai team, since I come from Mumbai, and we had Nimesh uncle and we had Savant sir and all of us sitting there, and Swami was introducing his team of boys to us, and it so happened that the team that was going to be chosen to be working in this hospital where we are sitting right now, where I'm sitting right now, was going to be chosen. And Swami actually showed us a snap of some of the boys, and I still remember there was somebody who was being given Vibhuti. Of course, I didn't know all these boys then. And Swami just picked up this snap and told Nimesh uncle, who, Nimesh, who are these boys? So, of course, uncle said, these are some boys from the institute, Swami. Swami said, these are going to work with us in their hospital in Bangalore. Swami used to always call this the Bangalore hospital. And then he said, these are my Vanaras. Now, the profoundness of that statement obviously is coming from Swami is something which even now brings goosebumps onto me, because I'm very fortunate today to work among this band of Vanaras. So Swami not only told us about their identity, Swami gave his own, obviously, when he told us who he was and to what extent we understand him as. Of course, I think somewhere down the line we got lost in that mundane Swami that we always saw as that orange robed figure. Obviously, as I understand it now, looking backwards, and my parents have always taught me, he probably needed to take a human form for us to understand how a human form can be related to God. Because we have always seen God in terms of pictures, in terms of Rama and Krishna and idols. We never saw a talking, walking human form which could be personified as God. I think to that extent Swami had come down to make it easier for us to understand, because otherwise those principles and those teachings would only remain in books and scriptures unless he had brought it down to us. So yes, going back, I'm very fortunate to be working among this band of Vanaras today, and be very fortunate to be a part of what is called as a temple of healing, but I think its dimensions are many fold more than just being a hospital. We always start off like most people who sit here and give these talks. I have generally felt they always start off saying that I have seen Swami first in so and so. I saw him first in 1975, I saw him first in 1985. They would always relate to some personal incidents that had happened, which obviously brought them closer to Swami, as Swami has called them his own visiting cards. So I always try to understand where my visiting card was, because my visiting card was not at all when I was born or when my parents took me to Puttaparthi or Swami named me. For me, I think it started much beyond this. There was another talk in Manohridaya which I had given, and at the cost of sounding repetitive, I might include this, because this was, I had titled that as my journey home, which I still feel this whole exercise of talking here is telling to tell you my journey home, which is here. And my journey probably began with my sister, my erstwhile sister I should say, because she is no more. And she was born to my parents 10 years into their marriage in 1965, 14 years before I was born. So she was a little bit of a special child. She couldn't walk, she couldn't talk too much. She had a huge myelomeningocele on her neck, which is a huge swelling, which needed quite urgent surgery, and she still couldn't recover from her paralysis after that. Generally, she was bedridden. So it was quite a shock for my parents, and my parents have been devotees of Swami from their childhood. Their parents have been, my grandparents have been. So it was quite a shock, and obviously for a couple that young, it came as a shock when they had their only daughter who couldn't walk, talk, and was lying on the bed. So the one thing that I'm told that she loved a lot as she grew up was sapota, what we call sapota in Hindu, or chikus. So it so happened apparently that, when my parents got quite disappointed and frustrated 6, 7 years, 8 years into her life, and she didn't pick up at all. It was then that, of course, they used to pray to Swami every day, but they made that physical visit to Swami one day. And those days, my parents still recount it was much, much, much easier than in the later years. They used to have these open sands in the thing of Chitravati, and Swami used to come, and they used to be seated in 2 lines. And it was very easy. Swami was much more accessible then in terms of physicality. Of course, he's accessible to us without his physicality, of course. But then at that time he was much more accessible, and Swami used to come and personally attend to each person almost. So it so happened that they reached on the evening of the previous day. Then they were giving the audience, and then the next day Swami gave them an audience on those sands. And it so happened that Swami distributed chikus on that day for some reason. Of course, we know that later. It used to be, of course, bananas and oranges on the few days prior to that. But then on that day, it happened to be chikus. And Swami started distributing chikus, and I get very emotional when I say this actually. But then as he came towards my parents, they were seated. My mom is the only one that he skipped. He gave it to the lady before her, he gave it to the lady after her. And my mom took a message out of this, and after he completed that entire row, he came back to my parents and said, "I'll give you your fruit later." So they took this as a very positive message. They understood the subtlety of it. Many years, even when they used to tell me this, I didn't understand the subtlety of it. But then it was, she of course lost her life in 1976, and Swami's words can never be wrong. I was born in 1979, almost to the Hindu calendar day and the hour of her time when she was born in 1965. So that's why when I go back and think, where my connect with Swami started, I really can't tell you chronologically where it started. It's probably where he wanted it to start. But I'm very thankful that he gave back his their daughter to them in a way that they have wanted him to actually give their first child as well. Going ahead, of course, a few things that come to mind, since I was told to recount of things which sort of brought us very close to Swami. One thing was about my education. A lot of things that happened is, I mentioned this also in Manohriday, even here I can't read out of a book. I'm a bit of dyslexic. I still stammer at times, so you have to forgive me for that. So the thing is, I can't read out of a book because there's always a connect between the brain and how the eyes see a certain paragraph which is written. So I always used to have this problem. And when we are in medical school, obviously there is a lot of reading to be done. So I always had this problem, and I perennially used to, in school I somehow managed, 12th standard was okay, but in MBBS it becomes too difficult because the amount of reading required is a lot. So I used to always find it easier when I saw a patient, or if I had to explain a concept to my teachers or my juniors. But to write it down and actually put it in paragraphs was a little difficult for me. So I used to always take this bypass route of trying to do something in terms of writing tables or writing flowcharts or paragraphs. I mean, not really in words, but then trying to draw stuff, which always was not really liked a lot by my teachers because they expected answers. But when I really went for my final exams, for my final MBBS exams, something very unique had happened in that exam. The question papers of one particular subject had been leaked, and there was a re-exam which was done somewhere around October of 2000, and the original exams was in somewhere around August, maybe 2.5 months later there was a re-exam, and after the re-exam we had planned to go to Puttaparthi anyways. And Swami had given us an audience on one evening when we reached there and given us an Abhayasta. I always say, whenever Swami does this, probably it's for the entire crowd. We always tend to think it's for me, so there's nothing like that. But then when Swami gave that Abhayasa, there was a lot of, somehow we felt that he had seen us directly, and and I think it ended there. There was not much to say after that. We came back, but what was waiting back for us in Bombay after we reached from Puttaparthi was a telegram from the Bombay University, which said that my name had cropped up in what was called as the Unfair Means Enquiry Committee. So we were shell shocked, because there was nothing for that leak for me to be as a part of that paper leak or whatever. But it was obviously all of us felt very disappointed as to how this thing had come suddenly. This was almost 2.5 months after the initial exam, maybe end of December. So on the 30th of December, I was called to Bombay University, and there was a group of some 6 people sitting there. And this is one event which I always said I'm not shared so much with anybody, even here or other than in Manohridaya, because it made a huge impact in my life. There was a group of 6 examiners sitting there inside, and one of the examiners brought forth a paper and started asking questions, and it was from a completely different subject. It was something which I had attempted way back in August. And then he started asking the questions, and then said, what did you write on this answer? What did you write on this question? What did you write on this question? I mean to say, like, what answer have you written? What answer have you written? Like that. And he completed the entire question paper. Then he took a second question paper out, and then again started doing this. It is not quite fair for someone to remember 3 or 4 months later what exactly you have written in an answer paper, earlier. But then this kept going on. And after those 2 question papers were over, like the chief of that committee, asked me, do you know why we have called you here? So obviously my mind was on that Unfair Means Enquiry and the paper leak in gynecology and all that. That was a separate subject. This was a medicine paper that they were examining me on. So I said I didn't know. I had no idea. And then he said, what does your father do? What kind of lineage do you have in medicine? Are your parents doctors? And do you have this? So I had no idea what was going on. And continuously, I was praying to Swami. My dad sitting outside was praying to Swami, had given me a packet of vibhuti and said, Swami will take care of you. And then, this examiner comes up to me and actually shows me my marks in the answer paper, and it says 55 out of 50. Now, this was something which I was not expecting. And he, I always say it is at the cost of boastful if you feel that I am sowing, like I'm being so that I am doing this. But he said that it had never happened in the history of Bombay University, and they had given those 5 extra marks to me only because I had drawn the flowcharts and actually written those points. Had I actually written them in sentences or whatever, paragraphs and words, it wouldn't have had that impact. I understood that at that point in time, that how an examiner corrects your paper is different from how you write it. But much more than that, I think there was a subtle message from Swami in that, because he knew the problem that I was facing. I have always taken it with that spirit, It's not that it happens every day. It had never happened before, and I don't think it has happened afterwards. And I always say, you want to check facts with Bombay University, you can go back and check it, because the chief examiner of that board, Dr. Chijgar, came back to me and said that, this is something which is very rare, and I think we have to actually commend you for this and all that. So I was very happy. But I think the larger message that Swami gave me and my parents, and that was, as long as we kept our belief in him intact, I think he, those are the miracles that really shown us. I have never got a ring or a locket or vibhuti or whatever my parents have, but we have not got that kind of materialistic thing that we look at and say, oh, this is a miracle. We always get fascinated in Kulwant or in PC or wherever we see this thing happen. Swami has given this. I don't think we need that, because that's something that Swami showed me personally on that day, that he is there to take care of us. I think that was the larger message in it. And those kind of marks actually put me into a gold medal in medicine, and that gave me my MD. That gave me my cardiology. So it was sort of a kind of a groundwork laid for that, if I look back at it. More than that, I always felt there is this big thing which is being made about in the movie line, which is called as nepotism, which is not very uncommon to see among children who come from parents who are doctors. It does happen. It's not that it's very common, but it does happen that parents, when the parents are doctors, they tend to tell okay, this is my son, and there are just like 4 or 5 seats in like post graduation in Bombay, 5-6 seats maybe. So it tends to get a little biased when you have parents as doctors. Many times during my MBBS course, and even when I was preparing for my MBBS finals, that thought had crossed my mind. I don't have my parents as doctors. he showed me on that day who is the parent who's a doctor. When you have your parent as your doctor of doctors, then you don't need any other nepotism to actually help you. I think that was something which was very obvious on that day, and that went on, quite a long way in my life. I have always said this. It actually came back in 2014 when Ashwin brother, who was also our cardiology manager, and a very close friend of mine, he had asked me to speak in Kulwant Hall. He didn't tell me where I should be giving my speech. I thought it was in our own hospital here. I said yes. And 3 days from the anniversary, he comes and tells me, no, are you ready with your speech? And I developed cold feet. I said, I had never spoken. I can't even look at a paper and speak. And speaking in Kulwant with Radio Sai like this, camera training on you, and a million people speaking is something else. So anyway, so that day also I sort of wrote points, and Swami made sure that I could speak. I think, putting a person who came from a semi-English medium school, who's partly dyslexic, who's not able to, who needs a lot of help from him, he was there to help me out on that day. I think that one point stayed with me for quite a long time, and actually helped me get into this course that I am doing today. Some very valuable moments that have happened in this hospital. Of course, there are a lot of snippets, a lot of small things that happen, but there are a couple of incidents which so vividly come to mind. One was the one regarding, which I have also mentioned Manohar today, is about Dr. Das, whom we call Das sir. And Das sir is someone who's very close to Swami. He's a very good teacher. I've been trained by him. I've been in his hospital from 2008. So I've been trained by him. I trained for my fellowship with him. And he's a very nice human being, very nice teacher. But more than anything, he's someone whose power, we have all believed in the department. Anybody who's worked with him will actually vouch for what I'm saying. His power comes from a much higher power. His hands, because the kind of thought process that he had, it's very, we always feel envious that he always thinks like that, and we always try to, me and Dr. Rita who's here, we always try to think like him when we are in our spot. But apart from that, apart from being a great cardiologist, he was someone who's been very close to Swami, being Swami's physician, and I think a lot of his good teachings have come down to us. But what happened with my father and Dr. Das was something very unique, and I always like to put it on record, because this is another aspect which, Swami doesn't look at a doctor's credentials or his teaching or his professional, background when he has to make a decision. Excuse me. So I'm even told, that Swami himself, when he had a bit of bleeding in the nose once, he had called Dr. Das. And Das sir said, Swami, of course he gave some treatment, but he said, Swami, I'm a cardiologist. He said, no, you are a doctor first. So you should know to treat everything. I think that's something which, sir taught all of us, that we should know all aspects of cardiology, but rather than that, we should know to treat the patient as a whole. You should know a bit of medicine, a bit of gynecology, a bit of radiology, everything. So I think that, apart from that clinical sense, one thing that happened very peculiarly with Dr. Das and my father was that my father still suffers from Parkinson's, but he used to have a very disabling lower back pain, which started around 2009 or 10, and it is medically diagnosed as a slippage of vertebrae over each other. It's called a spondylolisthesis. It's something which was running in their family, in our family, right from 2-3 generations, and he got it a little early. He got it in his late 50s, and he was still in his working years then, and it was quite disabling for him. So we tried everything. We had tried traction, we had tried heat therapy, and God knows everything we had tried. And we had seen some 2-3 neurosurgeons before I came here. This was, of course, a specialty hospital for neurosurgery, and we had even met Hegde sir and Dr. Sumit and all, everybody else. So he was under treatment for that. And there is this lady who is in Puttaparthi who is very close to Dr. Das. So she gets a message from Swami. She gets a letter from Swami saying, call me by name, like call Prayag, and there is some message for him. And then there is a letter. Then there are 10 points in that letter. Now, incidentally, that letter happened to come on a day when we were planning that surgery in another hospital here. And it said on 3 occasions, no surgery, no surgery. It took Dad's name. Dad's name is Ramdas. It said Ramdas should have no surgery. So three places it was like that. And obviously after that came, when I went to the hospital concerned, even they said, no, Swami has said so, because Dr. Rudrappa was actually seeing him, who has also been a staff here. So he said, if Swami has said there is no surgery, then there must be a bigger meaning to it. So we called off the surgery. He had even given some prescriptions. Swami had written some exercises for that and everything. But the pain was still there for a week or two. Then the last point on the letter was very intriguing. It said, tell Dasu, Swami used to call Dasar as Dasu. Tell Dasu to rub his back, my dad's back. The first 7-8 points made sense, but you can't go and tell Dr. Das, sir, you come and rub my dad's back. I felt very sheepish. Actually when approaching sir. So I went on one afternoon to sir, and one Saturday afternoon which was a little lighter, and I told him, sir, this is what is it. We were going to do surgery. Then sir said, yeah, go ahead with surgery, because then we told him, no, Swami, I said no surgery, sir. And then he sort of looked intrigued and said, then what else did Swami say? So he said, sir, Swami has told you that you should rub dad's back. Sir started laughing. He said, okay, Swami has said, so we have to do it, he said. So on one occasion, on one afternoon, on Sunday afternoon, I got dad to the hospital, and Das sir is a very nice man, very, very kind man. He never made it look like a medical rub or whatever. He kept talking to dad and said, uncle, how are you? And he kept rubbing dad's back. He must have done it for about 15 seconds, 10-15 seconds. And then he sort of looked at me, and it was like, is that enough? And we had no idea. So he just did that much, and then he spoke to dad, and then it was over in 10 minutes. I can tell you, a week from there, dad's pain vanished. This happened in 2014, 13 or 14, yes. And now it's 8 years since then. His pain has completely vanished. There was no surgery, there was no medicine, no traction, nothing done after that. It took about 7 days, and there was some vibhuti to be taken in a certain way, which he had told us. But dad's pain completely vanished. And he still continues to suffer from Parkinson's, but then it's not as disabling as it used to be. And I can never thank Swami enough for having at least put dad back on his feet, because dad's been a very, very independent person all his life. It was getting very difficult for him to depend at the early 60s. It's not really too old, but to actually depend on us. And I really thank Swami that he put dad back on his feet. And the same thing, a very similar thing happened with my son. Sainil is now 8 years old. In 2012, when he was born with a lot of jaundice. And my wife also, who actually works in this hospital, she underwent a second surgery because she had cholecystitis. She had gallbladder inflammation. We had a very traumatic 1.5-2 months. My child was in the ICU, and he was quite yellow. So at that point in time, we hadn't even named him. We have this thing where in our tradition, in our caste, we have to name the child a little early. So my parents kept calling. We never told them in Bombay that he was so jaundiced and that Anu had a second surgery. We didn't want them to get really anxious about it. But then he was into the range of bilirubin of 20, 25 up to 30. So then we had given him phototherapy and everything, and then we got him back. And incidentally, it so happened that on the day that we got him back from the hospital, there was one gentleman, one sage, who out of nowhere appeared in the house. Long before he was born, there's something that sort of connects here. Is long before that, when he was born in 2011, when I was in my final year, there was one lady who came from Tiruvannamalai, not from Ramanashram, but close to that, and who in the OPD, and she, I believe, was a very good face reader and of course a soothsayer. She had looked at me and said that your child is going to be born under the star of Subramanya, which he was eventually. So then again, coming back, this saint comes and says, is the child born under Subramanya star here? So we had no idea. He said we have to do a puja for this child's health, and also we conjured up something very, very fast in my place here, where we stay in C block, and we were not ready for it. But then we had a small puja about it, and then he materialized a locket, and he said, make Sainil wear this, and the child's jaundice improved, of course, over time. But another 10 days later, there was some listing of circumstances there where somebody told us that there is a family, a family of devotees of Swami in DRDO in Bangalore, close by, which you have to go, and you can take blessings from Swami there. And really, my parents don't believe in materialistic these miracles, but then they said, yeah, the child is sick, maybe we have to go there and see and whatever. So there were bhajans going on there, and we also sat along with the child there. So the lady of the house said, you just leave the child at Swami's altar and you come back and be with the rest of the group there. So they were all singing bhajans and everything, and we left the child there. People had kept their letters and whatever requests to Swami there. In 15 seconds or so, in half a minute or so, she comes back and says, take the child out. And by the time we went in, she had come out to again tell us about the child. We had just kept him there. The child was completely covered with vibhuti. I still have the photograph if it's possible to be shared here, or I can vouch for it. You have to take my word. Sainil was completely top to toe covered with vibhuti, and in his ears, in his mouth, in his diapers, and the child was just looking at Swami and laughing. We couldn't control our emotions then, neither me, my wife, nor my parents, because he had heard our voice. We felt that he knew what kind of pain we were going through, and like in those moments, because we can always say that we are doctors and we know this medical part of jaundice and all that, but somewhere down the line you realize when people so close to you fall ill, and you don't know really where life is taking you, because there was even a talk that he might need to undergo surgery and stuff like that. So we were very, very disappointed what had happened, and I can tell you, about 10 days from then the child completely improved, and it gave us a lot of faith and confidence again, restored our confidence in Swami, and always made us tell ourselves that as long as he is there to take care of us, things will not go out of control. It has stayed with me for quite a long time, and I keep repeating this wherever I can, really. People always talk about medical miracles here. This is something that I always make it a point to talk, and people keep telling us, when you talk about this, talk about some miracles that have happened in the hospital. I don't know, we have all come to believe, right from when I joined here, Dr. Dash was here, Dr. Rita ma'am is still here, me. We have all come to believe, Dr. Barua sir, who's been a long time devotee, we have all come to believe that every case that we have seen, and every person who's been here has come at his call, because he came at a certain point in time where Swami thought it was best to treat him in a certain way. This hospital doesn't need to boast of technological advances, of being very, very state of the art, because many things you might feel that are not available here. But I having worked here and having been a part of this for 12 years, I can tell you there is nothing lacking in this hospital. Whatever is there is the best that medical science has to offer, because there is a finiteness to which a doctor can try to treat a patient, but there is a much larger requirement of grace in that, and the patient, when he comes with the faith that he gets treated here, I think that's half the job done. We don't need hi-fi equipment for that. There are a couple of these incidents which have happened where I remember very vividly Dr. Kumaran, who was with us earlier, 2 years my senior, also a student of our institute here, and now a very established cardiac surgeon. There was one incident which I very vividly remember, where a person actually arrested early morning. He was to be taken for a bypass graft that very day, and at 7:30 in the morning, half an hour before he is wheeled into the operation theatre, he goes into a cardiac arrest. And we kept giving what is called as cardiac pulmonary resuscitation, CPR. The patient was put on a ventilator, and I can tell you, about 45 minutes by turns, about 15 doctors had given him 15 people had given him a cardiac massage, maybe 8 or 9 doctors, 3 or 4 nurses, 3 or 4 technical staff. Each of us gave about 10 minutes, almost 1.5 hours we continued. The initial 1 hour, I don't think it's reported anywhere in literature this, but generally people give about 15-20 minutes, half an hour of CPR, and then they actually give up, because they get tired, as well as there is no, nothing forthcoming in the patient's clinical signs. We kept going for about an hour. We were actually good in numbers. We were about 10 of us, so we kept giving 10 minutes each. And almost 1 hour into it, when almost everybody decided that he was not going to make it, something happened and there was a return of the rhythm. And this is something which even now I can't explain medically, or I don't think anybody can explain medically, how after 1 hour of CPR, or almost 100 minutes of CPR, when you keep giving it, the patient suddenly goes into a completely normal sinus rhythm. And it was like normal heart rhythm. And I can tell you, I sort of glanced at the surgeon's face, I glanced at the other faces. Everyone was looking at the monitor. It's like, is this happening? This is not medically, actually explicable in any of our huge tomes of textbooks that we read. I've not seen this anywhere, unless the patient is put on a cardiopulmonary support or on some kind of a physical support that you give him. This was just CPR. But eventually, the minute and it was 15 seconds of silence, I can tell you, of cerebral and probably oral silence when we saw that monitor. The first one to talk was Kumaran, who said, let's wheel him to the OT. That's it. That was that sentence that sort of everybody, sort of brought back everybody, brought to the senses, and we just rushed him to the OT. I can tell you, just before the lockdown started in 2020, March, I think February or March, this gentleman came back walking with a almost normal heart. You have to believe me when I say this. That's all, because these things don't appear in medical literature. Very recently, in fact, today morning I saw this patient. This gentleman has come, who was referred from another institute in Andhra. And it's always a little sensitive when another medical institute refers it to you and says that, because they always would tell the patient, no, go to Satyasai Hospital, it is offered better there, you try to take it from them. So this was actually a gentleman who was around 60 years, who was having a very weak heart. So he was waiting for an implantation of what is called as an cardioverter defibrillator, which is actually a shocking machine in the heart. So he was waiting for this, and he was trying to get finances for this, when somebody in the other hospital told him, try to seek it at Satyasai Institute. So he went to Puttaparthi, and since since they had started with this COVID thing a little earlier, they had their ward and everything, so they sent him here. Just before the lockdowns, the entire thing transpired. So this man comes down, and he's waiting. We had that machine in place. So we were going to do it on the Monday. He came on a Saturday afternoon, so we did his blood workup. On Sunday, when he was waiting one day, prior to his actual implantation, the man had a massive stroke. Stroke means he had a loss of his strength on one side of his body, upper limb and lower limb, completely gone. And then there was a theory which was put forward that probably there was a small clot from somewhere which had gone into the brain. Now, as much as we could explain it medically, we were all very disappointed, because it just happened, one day after that, and he probably would have got that machine. And these things sometimes happen like this, it's known in medical literature that it will always happen on that juncture where you think that, everything is going right, sometimes things go kaput. So this gentleman was then wheeled into the cath lab, because we thought we would just take him in, try to break open the clot, so that if it's possible, since he was in a hospital, it was all very, it seemed very probable. It's not an easy surgery, but we thought we'd take him to the lab. It's not been done in this hospital prior to that. So Dr. Rita and me with Dr. Chakravarti sir, who is our neurologist, and Dr. Parth Sarathi. So we all sat down together and said, we need to make an action plan for this. So the gentleman was wheeled into the cath lab, and thankfully we could manage to break open that clot. And he was on a ventilator for that day. The next day again we had put his device in. We could manage to do that. And 1 week into the course, all this was done on Sunday and Monday. So by Tuesday we had taken him off the ventilator. Friday and Saturday, this man walks home. He actually walked back home. We were just wanting to see on MRI as to how much was the damage to the brain that was caused by that clot. And when our neurologists and neurosurgeons took one look at the MRI on Thursday or Friday, it was done. One day prior to when he was discharged, they said this guy cannot walk. We have of course put in a machine in, but then we don't think medically it is possible to walk. Friday morning, before the sisters and we took a round, this man was sitting on the chair, in the CCU. I can still remember that. We were thinking, is it the same patient or is it somebody else? Because he was sitting on the chair, the anesthetist had taken out the tube, he was fine, smiling at us. This is not something that, again, as I say, you can explain in medicine or from the limited knowledge of science that we have. I think there is a much bigger science, if you were to call it SAIENCE, than the SCIENCE that we know. Because there are, and today morning, actually I interrogated, we had done this patient's interrogation, which is a manual checking of his device. and he's doing very well. He's doing excellently. He had come to meet all of us, and my wife was actually an anesthetist for that procedure. She happened to see him in the casualty today, and she was like, I can't even believe this is the same person. These things have always taken us, swept us off our feet in this hospital. Many incidents happened like this. There was an incident where there was a gentleman we were doing an angioplasty for, and Dr. Dash wanted to tell him how risky it is. And after doing the angiogram, we were going to do the angioplasty, and then we went out to tell the family. The family was quite skeptical. They said, sir, if it is so dangerous, we need to think over. But when we came back to the lab, the gentleman called his son and said, I have no issues. I will go ahead with the angioplasty, because yesterday Sathya Sai Baba came and met me in the ward and told me all will be well. He didn't even understand the import of what he was saying, because what I am saying is in 2015. So then Das sir asked him again. We thought he was having low oxygen or not in his senses or something. We asked him, what did you say? So he repeated it. He said, last night this gentleman, he actually showed a photo of Swami in the cath lab and said he had come to me and actually met me and said, Acha, sab acha hoga. Actually in Hindi. So then Dr. Dash looked at me and said, let's go ahead with the angioplasty. Now nothing is going to happen, because we again have that science above our science. Till today, I don't think this man has had any issue with his angioplasty. He's doing really well. So these miracles keep happening. We can talk about them to no end, but I think these snippets are enough to tell us, and that larger meaning that we are not the ones doing the surgery. Actually, it's just the hands. Probably there's a larger power behind us that is actually guiding in this and taking decisions for these patients, and sees to it that nothing goes wrong with his children, who come looking for solace to him. I think I'll just close my small talk with a few observations which I think we have already made in a very recent program which the Sathya Sai organization Bangalore East had made, and I think that was a great revelation for me. I was also a part of that larger program, but then it was planned for Swami's Samadhi Day, and there was a huge message in that entire program, which I think is worth recounting here. The question that we were thinking was, when we always talk about the descent of Swami, but then no one talks about the ascent. So the question was, where are we going to see Swami today? We can talk about his education institutions and the water project and Vidya Vahini and Bal Vikas and hospitals and all kinds of miracles. Someone who wants to know where the miracles lie, I think Puttaparthi is the largest miracle. The whole organization is the miracle. It is not to be relegated into a locket or a ring. That's my personal belief, and that's what always my parents have taught us. They said the larger miracle is this: creating something out of nowhere. Nobody would think that Puttaparthi is what it is today. So outside of that, where are we going to see Swami really? Where do we seek Swami? Do we seek him in that marble that he lies in? Is it large enough to hold him? Do we really believe that it is large enough to hold him? Are we going to see Swami in all these projects actually? Where is it that we look at him in? And I think I have DV brother here sitting next to me, and I think it's worth going over that whole program and understanding, because the essence was very beautiful. We all see this parting of the curtains early morning when Radio Sai starts their since now we are seeing it online, and every morning in Puttaparthi when the curtains part and then we see the Samadhi there. So then where do we look him? Do we look at him in that inscription, love all, serve all, really? So I think the larger message that I think Swami has given us with that in the in the final months in 2010 and 2011, when first he came out and then the chair came out, I think the larger message that Swami gave us was that he lies in that silence, and I think we need to find him in that silence. And Swami, I believe I was told this beautiful words that Swami has said, that if you can't understand my silence, how will you understand my words? So I think it is in that silence that we try to seek him in today, and ask ourselves, understand that we have been created by him to take this message forward. Unless we see him in ourselves and see ourselves in him, I think that that mission of putting us down here, whether it is medical, whether as doctors, as staff here, or anybody, I think it's not complete. We are a medical institution, yes, but then I think in the larger sphere of things, it's also about transformation. Transformation. We have all been given this chance. I believe that because always people say that you are those chosen doctors who work there, but at the end of the day, I think when I look at it, I think the biggest beneficiary of the whole thing is me, because I have been given a chance for redemption, for treating those few patients that I can, and be a part of a much larger mission in whatever little might that he has given me, so that I can contribute back to the mission and to the society at large. Uh, I'm very thankful for him for giving me this life the way he has, my parents, my education, and sort of bring me here. When I joined this hospital, within a week of joining, actually, to be very frank, I wanted to leave and run back to Bombay, because I couldn't speak even a single language. I come from Maharashtra and I speak only Hindi, Marathi, and English. Probably Konkani, which is my native language. But I knew not a single language, and I felt very, very out of place. But this brings me back to my very vivid memory of the very first week in this hospital, and I think that somehow connects with this silence as well, because when I saw Swami's image, something had happened. I had decided to quit, and I had written a letter to the HR that I'm going to go back to Bombay. I had a very good rank in my entrance exam in cardiology, so I could always take any other institute. So I decided that I'm going to do it elsewhere and come back and work here after I finish my cardiology. But as I came down the steps, I had seen Swami's image, which was outside our server room, where we have our HMIS department. We have a server room there, and there was Swami's photo there, where he stands like with this pose, with a small sleight of his hand, and that was not my voice. There was clearly not my voice that told me, and it was a question that, where are you going, something like that. And then I realized that when I say that this is my journey home, it's like I actually come back when your origin and your destination and your entire thing come to be the same. That's something that I realized that I mean, that was the end of it. I never sent that letter anywhere. I just tore it, put it in my pocket, and went back to work. I'm very thankful to him for having retained me here and for actually giving me a chance, for finding me capable of staying back here and serving him in whatever might I can. And as we go through these very tough times, very forgettable April and May 2021, I pray to Swami that he gives us the strength, to live up to his expectations, to also see to it that we fulfill all the expectations that he keeps unto us, so that